Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. What if I told you that a single illness could wipe out everything you've worked your entire life to build? Your savings, your home, even the inheritance you plan to leave behind to your heirs. Every year, families are blindsided by the massive cost of long-term care. And here's the kicker. Medicare doesn't pay for it. Medicaid, it can help, but only if you know how to navigate the system and if you plan far enough ahead. So in today's video, I want to go over how you can protect your savings and your home and the legacy you want to leave behind. I'll go over how Medicaid works, critical spend down rules, and other rules you need to know to protect yourself and your family. First, let's talk about why this is such a big issue. Today, the average cost of a private room in a nursing home is over $115,000 a year. Assisted living, you're looking at around $60,000 a year, and memory care runs even higher. If you have the means to do so, you can simply cash flow this, but many families can't afford to do this or can't afford to do it for very long. And Medicaid does cover nursing care facilities, but you have to qualify. And in order to qualify, you have to spend down your assets. In other words, without a plan, you could be forced to drain your savings, sell your home, and leave your heirs with nothing. Let's talk about what spend down actually means, because this is one of the most misunderstood parts of long-term care planning. In most states, to qualify for Medicaid long-term care coverage, a single person has to reduce their countable assets to about $2,000. If you're married, the healthy spouse, called the community spouse, is allowed to keep a bit more, but there's still strict limits. So when I say countable assets, what do I actually mean? Countable assets are anything Medicaid sees as available to pay for care. This is going to include things like cash sitting in your checking or your savings accounts, CDs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, retirement accounts like IRAs, 401ks, any extra real estate like a vacation home or a rental property, and even life insurance policies if they have a significant cash value. Basically, if it's something you could sell or otherwise cash out to pay a nursing home bill, it's probably considered countable. Non-countable assets, on the other hand, are things Medicaid usually lets you keep. This would typically include your primary residence up to a certain equity limit, which as of 2025 is roughly between $713,000 to just over $1 million, depending on the state you live in. One vehicle, no matter its worth, personal belongings like furniture, clothing, and jewelry, any prepaid funeral plans and burial plots, and any small life insurance policies, usually with a face value of $1,500 or less. But, and this is important, even though Medicaid allows you to keep your home while you're alive, once you pass away, they may start a recovery process from your estate. Now let's do an example so it's really clear. Let's say that you're single and have $150,000 in a savings account. Let's say you also have a house worth $350,000 and a car worth $20,000. Well, the $150,000 in savings, that's countable. Your home and your car are not countable, at least while you're alive. If you need a nursing facility and you want Medicaid to pay for it, you can't keep that $150,000. You have to spend it down, meaning you have to use that money for approved expenses, like paying for your nursing home care, medical bills, or certain necessary living expenses until you have about $2,000 left. And it's not just how you spend it, it's what you spend it on. You can't give the money away to your kids. You can't sell your house to your nephew for $1. Medicaid looks very closely at where this money went and how you spent it, and if you break the rules, there are very serious consequences. If you're married, the rules are a little different and more protective. The healthy spouse is allowed to keep the primary home, one car, and up to about $154,000 in countable assets under the Community Spouse Resource Allowance for 2025. That way, the healthy spouse isn't forced into poverty simply because their spouse needed long-term care. But this is still important. The spouse who needs long-term care, their assets still have to get spent down to about $2,000. So here's a quick recap just to keep it simple. Cash, investments, and extra property, that's countable assets. Your home, your car, your basic personal items, those are non-countable, at least while you're alive. Medicaid has very strict rules of how you spend down your money, and getting it wrong can delay or even deny your eligibility. Now, here's the part that surprises a lot of people. Medicaid has a 5-year look-back period. That means when you apply for Medicaid, they can go back and review all of your financial transactions for the past 5 years. So if you gave $50,000 to your daughter or you gave away your house to your son, they can penalize you for it. And the penalty isn't just a fine, it's a delay in care. It can make you completely ineligible for Medicaid for a period of time, depending on how much you transferred. So basically, you'd still have to find a way to foot the bill yourself. Here's an example. If you gifted your daughter $50,000 3 years ago, Medicaid might delay your coverage by several months, maybe even a year, depending on your state's nursing home costs. The key takeaway is timing really matters, and if you want to give away substantial assets, you have to do this long before you truly need care. All right, so how do you actually protect your savings and your home? There are a few smart and legal strategies that can make a huge difference. Let's start with one effective tool, if done correctly and early enough, and that's the Irrevocable Medicaid Trust. This is where you transfer assets like your home into a trust that you don't directly control. And if this is done prior to that 5-year look-back period, this can make it so your assets don't account against you for Medicaid eligibility. For example, let's say you move your $300,000 home into an irrevocable trust when you're 68. By the time you're 74, if you need nursing home care, Medicaid might not have counted your home against you anyway. But now, because it's in a trust, they also can't try to recover the home's value after you pass away. It's protected not just during your lifetime, but also beyond. And yes, you or your loved ones could still live in the home while it's in the trust. You just technically no longer own it, at least on paper. But here's some fine print that's important to mention. The laws around Medicaid and trusts are always changing, and states are becoming increasingly vigilant about Medicaid planning strategies. So just because something is ironclad today doesn't mean it will continue to be 5 or 10 years down the road. And while an irrevocable trust can be powerful, it comes with trade-offs. You lose control of your assets, and if you want to do something with them, you would have to jump through significant legal loopholes. And if it's not drafted carefully, it's going to create far more problems than it actually solves. So this is definitely something you do not want to DIY. If this is a route you want to go, talk to an elder law attorney, one who knows your state laws, Medicaid rules, and so they can carefully draft this for you. Trust me, this is one of those areas where getting it almost right is where it can go very, very, very wrong. Also, keep in mind spousal protections. If you're married, Medicaid does have some special rules that offer some protection to the healthy spouse. Right now, they would be allowed to keep around $154,000 in countable assets plus the family home. Again, that goal is to prevent them from being completely impoverished when one spouse needs care. Also, there are Medicaid-Compliant Annuities. This is a more advanced strategy, but in simple terms, you can turn a lump sum of money into an income stream for the healthy spouse, and this can immediately reduce your countable assets without a penalty. Again, this can be a very powerful tool, but this is not something you want to DIY. You want to do it properly if this is an avenue you want to go down, because annuities come with their own host of pros and cons, so talk to an expert. And finally, the avenue that I like best is strategic gifting, if it's done early enough. So if you plan more than 5 years ahead, you can make gifts to your heirs and those you love. And I really love this approach because I think it's nice to help people while you're alive. You kind of get to see your legacy in action. But make sure that you document things and make sure that this is well coordinated because, again, timing matters. Now, a lot of people ask, what happens to my Social Security if I end up in a nursing home? Here's how it works. If you're on Medicare, most of your income, including your Social Security check, goes directly towards paying for your care. You do get a small, and I want to emphasize, a small personal allowance, which is anywhere from $50 to $130 a month, depending on the state you live in. But that's it. But if you're married, the rules are a little bit more generous. For your spouse, the one living at home, they may be able to keep some or all of your income to maintain the basic living expenses. This is called the Minimum Monthly Maintenance Needs Allowance. As of 2025, the federal government sets this minimum allowance at $2,465 per month. States can allow a maximum of $3,854 per month, depending on the cost of living where you are. So in plain English, if your spouse's own income is less than about $2,465 a month, they can draw from your income until they they reach this level. In a higher cost of living state, they might be allowed to pull up to around $3,854 a month. Let's say you go into a nursing home and your spouse's monthly Social Security is just $1,500 a month. Your spouse could take enough from your Social Security or pension to bring their income up to that minimum threshold. In this case, at the federal level, it'd be $2,465 or higher depending on your state. This rule is designed to ensure that the healthy spouse isn't completely wiped out just because you need care. So if you're married and on Medicaid, your spouse doesn't automatically lose everything. There are baseline protections that are in place. When it comes to long-term care planning, there are a few mistakes that can really cost you. First is waiting too long to plan. If you wait until you're already sick or needing care, most asset protection strategies are already off the table. Two is gifting improperly and not being aware of that 5-year look-back period. And three is trying to DIY everything. Medicaid rules are pretty complex and they vary from state to state, so this is definitely a situation where I would talk to an experienced elder law attorney. So what should you do right now, even if you're healthy? First, meet with an elder law attorney and find out what your best options are. Second, look into a long-term care insurance or hybrid policy, especially if you're in your 50s or your 60s. Determine if the cost is worth it for you. Third, have open conversations with your spouse or your family about your long-term care wishes. And finally, make sure your legal documents are in order. Things like durable power of attorney and advanced healthcare directives. These documents make it possible for someone you trust to act on your behalf if you ever end up in a situation where you can't. Here's the bottom line. Long-term care isn't just a health issue, it's also a financial one. And you want to have a plan in place so you can protect everything you've built, whether that's your home, your savings, and the legacy you want to leave behind. So don't wait. Make sure to have a plan in place because it's not just about protecting your savings. It's about protecting your peace of mind and the people you love. So what are your thoughts when it comes to long-term care and the expense that could inevitably come down the road? Leave them in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye. What if I told you that a single illness could wait? Great place to mess up. You can look through your financial tractions. I'm gonna go over own it when it what it is. Whew, we are struggling here. And I like the attitude of helping people while you're alive, because then you kind of get to see what your legacy is doing for these people.